Welcome to another repaint video. This time I started a project I've been thinking about for a while. I saw this teacup custom by Tsubasa Makeup Dolls on Instagram and I loved the idea. So since the end of September I have been planning. And the first thing I did was breaking her neck. It didn't start well, but I proceeded as usual, cutting her hair and then scraping the hair out of the plugs with a screwdriver. Since I was going to cut her scalp off, I didn't scrape it all out. No point in doing so. Then I marked where to cut with a permanent marker. I don't know if you noticed initially, but her head was sun-bleached and the color didn't match the body anymore. That's why I chose this doll, since I was going to airbrush her head anyway. I didn't count on the neck to break though. Ooh, here's the neck peg. It stood between using another body or trying to fix it. I'm not too fond of wasting materials, so I thought I might as well try. And with some super glue, stubbornness and some fitting curse words, I actually managed to fix it. I'm rather proud of myself. So I glued the pieces back and then sanded them down. Then some more glue and some more sanding. I fixed the edge a bit, then I made 3 incisions inside the neck. This I do to ease the reattachment of the head. As you can see, the cracks don't show after the head is back in place. These bolts need to go before I remove the face-up, which I do with 100% acetone. Since her head is stuck on the body, I need to be careful not to get acetone where it's not supposed to be. Acetone will melt the body and you can fix it by sanding, but you know, why create the extra work? To protect the neck peg so she can have her moving range, I use the end of a pipette and just put it on like a little cap. That way I don't have to worry about resin pouring out through her neck, which would be a nightmare. Next is fixing the scalp. She has these hair plugs that will look odd if I don't try to cover them up a bit, so I mix some epoxy clay and then use water to smoothen it out onto her head. I also put a layer inside to stabilize it. Then, with the leftovers, I made a flower and a little handle. In Swedish we call the handle on the cup öra, which means ear, and I thought it was universal. Oh well. She needed some sanding before I could use the airbrush. I was planning on some brown resin to make the tea, but first I wanted to make a little barrier. I made it out of some cardboard and then used my glue gun. I also got rid of her stitches by cleaning the underarms with acetone and sanding the rest. I wanted to create a soft gradient to white, but not like, you know, white, so I used magenta and yellow to warm it up a bit. This tiny amount turned out too dark and I had to use more of the white paint in the end. After a layer of protecting Mr. Superclear, she was ready for the face-up. I was nervous that her airbrush paint would chip off, but I got another side effect instead. The pencils became even more opaque. I struggled with her eyebrows. The way I first made them made her look like bitchy. Can I say that? I can't find a better word for it. She looked like pissed. Her lips, on the other hand, turned out really beautiful. I love using soft pastels. Finally, I add some blushing before I move on to the next layer. To hide unevenness and give her some character, I added some cracks. The plan was to paint them gold after drawing them. I love the philosophy behind kintsugi, the art of mending broken ceramics using lacquer mixed with gold, silver or platinum. Yeah, I kind of stole that info from Wikipedia, but you know, you get the idea. Third layer, and things didn't go as planned. I decided to use acrylics during this stage. I don't remember why. Usually I do that on the fourth layer, but I was a bit out of it. Fourth layer, and yes, there will be a fifth one. Here I just added some flowers, swirls and freckles. Fifth layer. The day before I painted this, I had to put my dog to sleep. She had been with me for 10.5 years. It got to a point where I got the question, but where is Kiwi, when I visited people, because she was always with me. Like, losing her was like losing a limb. I was in shock, both at the vet and for days afterwards, so honestly, I don't remember painting this. I apparently added the cool details, and then I vegetated on the couch, alternating between emptiness and utter grief, sculpting small things and watching Dr. Phil. I always listen to music while painting, but this clip, it's just eerie silent. I feel better now, but the world still lacks a bit of its color. I finished the face up with some Tamiya gloss varnish. Now her face up is done. Time to make some tea. I used clear resin. This one is mixed 2:1 and hardens after 24 hours. As usual, I mix way too much. I made some eye bases and prisms with the leftovers. To dye the resin, I use some fountain pen ink. I did a test batch first and it worked pretty well. I added some eyeshadow, you know, the cheap kind you can get from eBay. I bought this like 10 years ago and I tried it out rather quickly. I concluded that I didn't want it near my eyes at all. It works well with resin though, so I'm keeping it. Craft glitter. I wanted this to sink to the bottom and hide the cardboard piece. After around 18 hours, I decided to try to make some swirls. I had to go back after 3 more hours and redo it, but I wanted some motion in the resin, you know? Oh, and I added some string and a piece of paper to make it look like she got a tea bag in there. I wanted to add a little spoon too, but that was beyond my ability and time was kind of running out. Such a shame. Let's make some clothes, but first a list of what to make. Because it's so satisfying to cross things as they are finished, I decided on a t-shirt, a choker, a pair of suspender pants, some socks, and then suspenders for the socks. First out was the t-shirt. I traced the pattern and cut the pieces out of off-white soft elastic fabric. Then I glued some brown lace onto the arms, then I hemmed the neckline with some fabric glue. Thank the crafting gods for fabric glue. In the beginning I used my sewing machine to assemble the small t-shirts and hoodies and whatnot, but nowadays I sew them in place by hand. Hand sewing gives me so much more control. See? Super simple. Arms are attached, it's pinned and ready for the machine. T-shirt, check. Next is a choker. I used the same lace as on the t-shirt, gathered it and sewed it on a lilac ribbon. Like such. I made some tiny cuffs too out of the same ribbon. So small. Choker, check. Next is the pants. I used a mix of Moonlight Jewel's bloomer pattern from her book and a waistline from the skirt pattern from DG Requiem on Etsy. Then I winged it with the front of the suspender pants. I used unbleached cotton for this. First I traced and cut out the parts as usual. I improvised some cuffs for the legs too. The first step is gathering the legs and adding the cuffs. This part I do at the sewing machine. There we go. Then I glued and folded the cuffs and sewed the seam. Like this, I also sew the crotch together. This fabric tends to fray, which I avoid with some more fabric glue. While that dried, I started on the waistline. The waist is gathered and attached to the lower part of the waistline, right side against each other. Pin, pin, pin it like an engaged person on Pinterest. And more fabric glue and paper clips. So far, so good. It looks pretty neat. Now over to the sewing machine. Time for the front part and suspenders. With these, some thread and Lord of the Rings, I made this. Then I sewed the crotch and added the suspenders. Pants? Check! It's time to make some socks. I found this pattern on the web for free. I'll add a link in the description. This is the sound I hate the most. That was the sound of underthread problems. I fixed it though, but still, it's heart-wrenching. Socks? Check. Time for some suspenders. One can buy these wax pens cheap on Wish or something, but I had some straws and beeswax at home, and yeah, these ugly but functional things work pretty well. Check, check, and check. I tried some shoes on her, but they just looked unflattering. Here is how to make tiny bows. Random, I know, but anyway. I used ribbons that were around 2.5 centimeters long, then I folded them like this. Then I made some stitches, like this. And then I swivel the thread round and stick the needle through the middle. Voila! A tiny bow. This video is getting near its end. I just added some details, a little piercing, and some earrings before I was done. So, this project was different. I had a low period even before my dog died, so I'm proud of myself for managing to finish this doll. I think I will come back to the concept someday and maybe make a coffee girl eventually. That would be cool. All like espresso and dark roast kind of girl. But that will have to wait, because now I'm still working on a private swap doll and I have some Christmas ideas, you know? It's like 2 weeks left and I'm not sure I'm going to make it. We'll see. After the new year, I will start a Patreon, by the way. I've been thinking about it for a while, but I wanted to offer something in return, you know? So I'm working on making little art dolls that are similar to the custom concepts I create. I don't know if it makes sense. I'm still working on it. I thought they could be part of some kind of giveaways among the Patreons. I'll work on it as soon as we go on the winter holiday break. It's a teacher thing, you know? Anyway, this is what I started with. And this is the result. She's so cute! I'd say that the details and her mod are my favorite parts. Mixing the resin was so much fun, and adding the little piercings and earrings was so satisfying. I hope you enjoyed watching the process. And may your underthread never give you any trouble. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!